Hello everyone and welcome back to My Opinion. Finally, in match 5, we've seen a team successfully defend a total. And the Rajasthan Royals winning this game handsomely by 61 runs. And I think they set a great first impression going into the season. And I think with the performance they gave, the thing you can gather from this side of the performance they gave today is that their strengths are really strong, and I'll adapt. I'll expand on what I meant by that towards the end of the video. So, regarding the starting 11s of both teams, for the Rajasthan Royals, a fairly expected 11. And Harsha Bogart actually made a few videos for each of the franchises predicting his starting 11s on the Cricket Plus channel. And the personnel in his 11 for the Rajasthan Royals were the exact same as the ones chosen today. A slight positional difference though, because in his 11, Padikkal was batting at 3 and Samson batting at 4. Something that I thought would be the case with Jaiswal and Padikkal playing in the same 11 if that was the case. But surprisingly, Samson walked out to bat at 3 and Padikkal at 4. And for that move, I thought for Sanju Samson, it was probably better for himself that he batted at 3 to make use of his ability. And I think that to give him also more time to play as well. I think that demoting himself to number 4 would not do justice to his own ability and as well with the season that he had last year. And I think that with Padikkal, I thought also him batting at 3 from opening the batting, and apart from that 1 century, playing mostly that 120 odd strike rate, albeit in conditions where batting isn't as easy as it is here. And I think that that was going to be an intriguing challenge for him. And batting at number 4 was going to be even more of a challenge from what he did for RCB. And I'll get to how I think he went on that today, and maybe how I think he'll actually go on that in the future. So yeah, I'll get to that when I get to his innings. So that was the Rajasthan Royals 11. And for the Sunrisers, there's one inclusion which I actually hadn't had in my previous videos when I was predicting SRH's 11, and it was in the video where I was reviewing the Mumbai Indians versus Delhi Capitals game, where I talked about Daniel Sams, Odion Smith and Romario Shepherd all in the same light, where bowlers bowling all-rounders that seem to be doing better with the bat than they do with the ball. And especially if you look at Odion Smith for the Punjab Kings, you kind of thought none for 52 and then 25 off 8. And I don't know how he got them out of the match. But yeah, I think that even in Romario Shepherd as well, work in progress in his bowling and just being played because he can hit sixes. But even then, you wouldn't really say there's too much consistency, which he kind of gets a substantial score in that. So it was a high-risk selection, I thought, and I still think. But I'll get to how I thought he went when I talk about his bowling fairly soon. And also, the reason why I think they selected him was because if you look at the 4 main batsmen that look to get the bulk of the runs, and Williamson, Rahul Tripathi, Nicholas Puri, and Aiden Markram, all 4 of those players you'd preferably want to bat in the top 4. I think with 2 of those, you may get away with batting at number 5. Tripathi playing that finisher's role for KKR, especially 2020. That would be I think when Andre Russell, for example, wasn't having a great season, and Rahul Tripathi really shone for KKR in a few games in that kind of finisher's role. And also Nicholas Puran, when he first burst onto the scene, he was playing for the Barbados Tridents and also finishing the innings for them. So I guess for 2 of those, maybe you could say by them batting at number 5 you could get away with it. The one player who played really well today, but I thought that him batting at number 5, I think would be one position too low for him. You'd probably want to bat him in the top 4. Would be Aiden Markram. And even with all those players at the current phases of their career, you'd want to bat them at the top 4 with what Tripathi did last season in the IPL. And Nicholas Puran has been batting in the top 4, mostly at 3 in T20 cricket. And I think that, yeah, he can obviously bat at 4 as well. And I think that with all those 4 players, considering that they're batting, would be batting in the top 4, but even at number 5, even Aiden Markram number 5, these are players who, again, if you look at the template for the Sunrisers, you wouldn't really say that the player at 6 or 7 are going to be able to, they'll be responsible for that flourish to get them to the bigger totals. You think one of the 4 players that I just mentioned would have to, well, you could say bat through mostly and then unleash to get them to those scores. Yeah, they're going to have to rely on the batsman more at the top of the order. And even at that number 5 slot, I think probably playing Tripathi or Nicholas Puran would be better than playing Markram at 5. But because they don't really have that outright, well, finisher, if you like, in the lower middle order, I think with Samad at 6, are you going to be able to rely on him at this stage in his career for a lot of games? I don't think so. So to support him as another player who can clear the boundary, Romario Shepherd being played as a player who can also offer overs as well. I think that, that was a selection that I hadn't actually got in my starting 11. I thought, okay, it'll be putting a lot more onus on Samad, but if Washington Sundar bat to 7, Samad at 6, that was my that's how my 11 went, and maybe play a Marco Janssen as an overseas player instead of Romario Shepherd. But they've gone with this way, and I can understand why they went for Romario Shepherd, but I do think it's quite a high-risk selection, and I'll get to how he did very soon. So that's this 11. The Sunrisers winning the toss, choosing to field first. And especially if you look at the first 3 overs with how Bhuvneshwar Kumar bowled throughout the entire innings. And Romario Shepherd's first 2 overs went for 7 runs, picked up 1 wicket, so a great return. But I'm gonna include for the first part his 5-run over in the second innings of the second over of the game. And you thought with the way Sunrisers were bowling as starting up, that they would have wanted to get these early breakers, and they would have thought they could get those considering the pressure that they were creating. Josh Butler should have been dismissed in the very first over. The catch was taken at slip, but it was a no ball by Bhuvneshwar Kumar. He also bowled another no ball, however that one didn't really have any implications as much as the Josh Butler reprieve. There were 2 reprieves for Butler via the form of no balls from Bhuvneshwar Kumar and Umran Malik. And I think that if you're looking at this point in time, Josh Butler wasn't really at his fluent best, and especially the first delivery Umran Malik ball kind of had that hard length where Josh Butler tried to hit just fuller of a hard length where Josh Butler tried to hit straight down the ground with a straight bat. The ball took the outside edge and went for a boundary through the backward point region. So a great start for Umran Malik. And then Josh Butler started using the pace. The over went for 21. But in that 21 run over, there should have been a wicket with Abdul Samad. Yes, I mean, you can't really, it would be harsh to call it a chance. I think that the ball just burst through the tip of his fingers. It went to the boundary. But even if he had caught it, it wouldn't have made a difference because it was a no ball. So 2 reprieves to a player like Josh Butler. And you would have probably been expecting the worst in terms of Josh Butler was going to cash in. And SRH were going to have a bit of trouble dismissing him after this point. And I think there were 4 no balls in the first 25 balls of the innings, 2 by Bhuvneshwar Kumar, 1 by Umran Malik, and the first ball of Washington Sundar's overs in this game. And I think that pretty much set off his misfortune in the game, going for 47 runs in 3 overs. And I think the 2 reprieves resulted by those 2 no balls. I guess they got off fairly unscathed because the second wicket to fall was Josh Butler, 35 of 28. A Jaffa from Umran Malik, who, after going for 21 in his first over, really came back in his next 3, giving 18 runs only and picking up 2 wickets. A Jaffa from Umran Malik, and you could probably excuse the lack of foot movement from Josh Butler on 148 kph delivery just outside the off stump. Beaten for pace, Nicholas Puran took the catch, and Butler was dismissed for 35 of 28. So fairly unscathed the SRH bowlers would have been. Already rather, the overall team effort by the SRH would have been unscathed at this point, considering 2 reprieves as well. He was just starting to get into his groove. So the first wicket to fall, however, was Yashasvi Jaiswal. It was a ball that didn't really rise up too much. Jaiswal tried to pull the ball that Romario Shepherd bowled, and was caught at square leg after going quite high. So it was caught by Aiden Markram. And this is an opportunity for me to talk about Romario Shepherd. I think with the number 7 role, it's quite a delicate role, and we've seen especially the likes of Daniel Sams when he had a disastrous day with the ball. And Romario Shepherd, despite the fact that he swung the ball in the home series against India, and I remember especially one game that Rohit Sharma really took him apart, especially in his first 2 overs. And yeah, he was expensive pretty much through that game. And I think that if you're playing him as he's playing in the side at number 7, which is a huge difference of playing at number 6. For Odean Smith, he had to bowl 4 overs in Punjab Kings' first game, but with Rabada in the side, he's probably not gonna be that third seamer if they still play the other seamers that they did. So now, if you're playing at number 6, yes, if and when he bowls, he would want to bowl more economically. But if you're then counting in that 25 of 80 scored, I think that you're looking at someone who isn't part of the main 5 bowlers. And while you wouldn't want him to be as expensive as he was in that first game, you'd certainly think the batting that he offers is a huge bonus. Now, it's a huge difference between playing at number 6 and playing at number 7, where you're part of the 5 bowler attack. You have to bowl 4 overs consistently. If you're expensive, give 50 odd runs, then the few sixes that you hit won't make a difference. And I think that even if you, and this even works for the likes of Ravindra Jadeja, because him batting at number 5 in the CSK lineup, which was what that was in my 11, and then as compared to him batting at number 7, having to bowl 4 overs every game, I think his the shortcomings in his bowling, especially on more batting friendly surfaces, would far outweigh the runs he gives at number 7, which is the reason why I think the dynamic of him playing at CSK higher up the order is completely different from him playing at, let's say, number 7 for India, which is why I think Akhlep should be at number 7 for India. But I think that's an example where you kind of see the shift in balance of how much more important it is that your bowling is on point when you're playing at number 7, part of the 5 bowlers. So with Romario Shepherd, as with Daniel Sams, I think that it's been the case of giving 50 runs and then just hitting a few sixes is not going to make the team's life any easier, because especially with also Odean Smith in the Punjab Kings game, he's the reason why they had to chase what they did. And yet he gets the man of the match because he scored 25 of 8, which I thought was ridiculous. So I think that with the first 2 overs, Romario Shepherd bowled 1 for 7 in 2 overs, and I was pleasantly surprised by the way things went. We've seen that he does swing the ball when there's swing on offer, especially against India in the home series. But the economy rate was really pleasing to see in his first 2 overs. Yes, he went for runs in his last 2, but I thought that overall, when a team's given 210 runs, 33 runs in 4 overs, picking up 1 wicket, you will take that. And I think that he's going to have to build on this. As I said, a delicate position, number 7. They could have easily played Marco Jansen, but they've played him out of Shepherd out of necessity to get that power low down the order. And he's going to have a good season with the ball, because his bowling is going to be more on the focus than his batting. If he gets his bowling right, which I think will be a huge challenge, but if he gets his bowling right more often than not, which as I said he's going to have to work quite hard on, then you've got his batting where he hits sixes and they pick up the whole different story. So that's on Romario Shepherd, bowled 2 overs well today, and if you can build on this, it'll be great for him and the team. And that was on him. And after 2 wickets fell, there was Sanju Samson at 3 and Padikkal at 4. Now, about Padikkal at 4, obviously with what he did for RCB, you kind of thought that he batted at that 125 odd strike rate, only scoring 1 century. Well, not only scoring 1 century. What I'm trying to say about that was the only innings where the strike rate went higher than that generally. And playing in conditions where, yes, batting isn't as easy. But going from there to batting at number 4, where in some ways there's a higher sense of urgency with the conditions of most grounds that they'll be playing in, I think that it was an interesting challenge to see him bat at number 3, let alone number 4. I'm happy Samson batted at 3, but at the same time, Padikkal batting at number 4 was an interesting thing to see. He scored 3 of 8 for his first few deliveries, and at that point you thought, is he kind of struggling to... I know it's only the first game he's playing at number 4, so I wasn't really harsh on him at all, but I was just saying that, is this the case where I think that him batting at number 4, with all the benefits you get with Samson at 3, do things slow down slightly before they kick on at Padikkal at 4? In the end, he really compensated after that, because he scored 38 runs off the next 21 deliveries. I mean, some of the shots that he played were magnificent. And that partnership was a really good one. It went for 75 to 148. It took a Jaffa to dismiss Padikkal, and the man who bought a Jaffa to dismiss Josh Butler did the exact same thing. Not the exact same delivery, but for this one, Padikkal effectively, it was almost like after the ball pitch, he didn't have any time to react at all. Just cramped him up for room, and he was bowled through. And yeah, I think that Umran Malik, some great deliveries being bowled to Butler and Padikkal, and it really highlighted his resurgence in the last 3 overs that he bowled with 18 runs for 2 wickets in his last three. And on Umran Malik, I think he's, at first glance to me, he's part of the crop of the red ball bowlers who are in India who are trying to learn the white ball way, rather who are trying to get to grips with this format. And I'm putting in the category of a Mohammad Siraj, a Prasidh Krishna, and Navdeep Saini as well. It's and etc. I think that these bowlers are kind of, they are more red ball bowlers trying to learn the trade in white ball cricket, and therefore, yes, they're great at hitting a length, but they are quite expensive, especially, they don't really seem to have the goods especially at the latter phase of the innings. And we haven't really seen Umran Malik bowl at the death too much and really at all. And it'll be interesting to see if he does bowl to death, how he goes. And I think the one bowler who's probably transitioned from red ball cricket or expanded his game into white ball cricket as well is Shardul Thakur, as far as the Indian pace battery, who really started expanding for red ball cricket. He's done that the best out of all these players that I mentioned. So I think that there's certainly he's quite raw. Umran Malik, he bowls express pace, and he is still quite raw though. But with the way he bounced back in these last 3 overs was great to see, and especially after the 21 run over, I remember the innings, the bowling innings against the Mumbai Indians. He went for 50 odd runs there as well in their last game of the season last year, and also. I remember seeing a few scorecards from domestic games where he's also a bit expensive. So I thought that he would struggle with that. But after the 21 run over, I think that he was magnificent for the next three. And I think the moment Padikkal got out, because of the lack of batting depth Rajasthan Royals have in their 11, you'd think that there'll be Shimron Hetmeyer. Riyan Parag, you don't know what you're going to get from. Sometimes he may be good, sometimes he may get out early. And then afterwards, it's the bowlers. And I know in this game, maybe the batting depth was slightly improved. You've got Nathan Coulter now, Ravichandran Ashwin, then the bowlers, then the other bowlers. And in another 11, maybe if it was Ashwin at 7, and Navdeep Saini has shown, I think, a game against New Zealand in an ODI. The India lost, but he also scored 42 runs, I think. So he's shown he can bat a bit. But I think that despite the fact that was the case, getting the side to above 200 would have been in the hands of Hetmeyer and Riyan Parag, and they both did quite well. Parag only 12 off 9. I know it looks like that, but he hit 2 great boundaries, including the first one. He hit a cover drive of Bhuvneshwar Kumar for 4. And for Shimron Hetmeyer, 32 of 13 balls. For the Delhi Capitals, I would say is probably the best lower order batsman in the tournament, you could say, in the last season for the Delhi Capitals. And number 5, he walked out today, and he really seemed to have continued where he left off, and in better batting conditions than he would have played in last year's IPL. A really good batting conditions today, and he made full use of it, 32 of 13. And in the end, 210 for 6 for the Rajasthan Royals, a magnificent innings from them. And I'd like to talk about two things before I go to the SRH batting innings. For the Rajasthan Royals, actually, no, I'm going to talk about the second thing as near to the end of the video, as I said. But for the Sunrisers bowling, it's kind of, I know you could say they've gone for 210 runs, but I really think that if they got the early breakthroughs before, at the start, they weren't no balls, they were in a completely different story. I think when SRH were 75 for 2 or something like that, 80 odd for 2, they would have probably, and Nick Knight actually said this on commentary, when I think Sanju Samson pulled Romario Shepherd for 6 over a fine leg. I think what he said was Rajasthan would look at this and look at how it started off, and I think we could have been a whole lot worse, because if those breakthroughs had been breakthroughs and not no balls, then things again, they wouldn't have got the 35 runs from Butler that set them up to have a platform along with Jaiswal scoring 20, and the power play would have been completely different. They wouldn't have got 58 runs in that. And yeah, I think that because of the reprieves, it set Rajasthan off. Sanju Samson played magnificently. Padikkal also with 41 of 29. Hetmeyer 32 of 13. Riyan Parag 12 of 9. I think that pretty much every player in the top six getting contributions, even Riyan Parag's 12 was quite a good 12, and he only got out in the last ball of the innings, so while not facing too many deliveries. So I think that everyone really contributing with a bat in the top six, 210 for 6, and it was going to be interesting to see how Hyderabad were going to go in the batting innings. And if you're actually looking at this bowling card for SRH, Bhuvneshwar Kumar 1 for 29, Romario Shepherd 1 for 33, and a resurgence from Umran Malik 2 for 18 and 3. Considering that if Natarajan, I know he hasn't played cricket for a while, but if he kind of gets back to, if he does what we've seen him do, especially in the last season, I think today was simply just an off day. Then you've probably got, especially with three of those bowlers today, you've seen quite some positives. And I think that, yeah, just how it started off with the first opportunities not being taken, that affected SRH for the entirety of the innings. And that's why 210 runs were conceded. And SRH had to bat. And it's almost like you look at that Gujarat Titans power play when they managed to get the opposition 32 for 4 after 6 overs. And then you look at the power play today. You think, how could that power play possibly be overtaken in terms of how power? It just seemed like the bowling side were all over the opposition. And then for that, it was one bowler. For this, it was two. Prasidh Krishna and Trent Bolt were relentless in their line and length, and the wickets came. And the first man to go being Kane Williamson. I personally think that, look, first of all, the reason why I create doubt in the umpire's mind, and I'm not saying the decision was the right one, I don't think it was, but the reason why it would create doubt in the third umpire's mind, because we've seen other catches where there's a camera trick where it would seem like it's bounced, but the fingers may be under the ball in real life when it happened in kind of in real time. However, though, in this case, I think it looked like a fairly obvious bounce, and I thought that it was a huge wicket for SRH, their captain, someone who really has shown quite a few times in the past for SRH, especially when he hits at the end. I really think that, for example, that innings against RCB, I think 81 in IPL 2018, that kind of innings where him batting from the top, really batting through and then unleashing, the captain being dismissed, and especially in a way which you thought was kind of unjust in terms of the decision that was given by the third umpire. That was a huge blow for SRH. Maybe that would have also deflated them slightly, but I think that even then, the line and length from Bolt and Prasidh Krishna were relentless. And they were all over the Sunrisers Hyderabad in this power play. I think it's the lowest ever power play score in the history of the IPL, 14 for 3. And the opposite, and the Lucknow Super Giants being 29 for 4 in 5.3 overs or something. And in this case, chasing 210, the SRH 29 for 4 in 8.2. So that's how ridiculous viewing this was. And yeah, pretty much, there's not really too much more to say than this opening 4 overs. Rather, the opening few overs of this game, especially the power play, just relentless line and length. And Kane Williamson dismissed first. Tripathi a bit no foot movement, but still the ball was quite a good one. And for Nicholas Puran, 0 of 9 is having a torrid time. And look, the bowling was so good that it was really hard to score off. And the shot that he got out was a bit disappointing, but I guess at that point, hitting 210, something had to give. And unfortunately for him, he lost his wicket. And playing 9 dot balls, including his wicket as well. So if you combine 0 of 3, 0 of 9, 2 of 7, 9 of 19, and that's the contribution you've got from your top 4 when chasing above 10 over from the get-go. The game was pretty much lost in the power play. Then it was pretty much just a net session to see how things would go from both sides. And Aiden Markram, though, 57 of 41, I still think he was batting a position too low, but considering the situation, he played quite well. And there was not too much to say in the Saints about the Saints really. Romario Shepherd, 24 of 18 until he yorked himself off Yuzvendra Chahal, and Washington Sundar, a brilliant 40 of 14. Him and Markram adding a bit more respectability to the total, because if they hadn't done that, then who knows how low the total would have been. And coming to Washington Sundar's innings and Aiden Markram's innings, they, amongst all this, they somehow managed to get a 19-ball partnership of 54 and got a bit more than that as well. And I think that this is where I'm talking about, yes, brilliant performance in Rajasthan all in all. Trent Bolt, 2 for 23 and 4. Prasidh Krishna, 2 for 16 and 4. I mean, with that bowling, even the best of batting lineups would have struggled with that. Just giving nothing away. And Ravichandran Ashwin, 9 for 21 and 3. Chahal, 3 for 22 and 3. So 4 outstanding bowling performances there. Riyan Parag, 1 over, none for 14. Again, he's the 6th bowler on the side. I still think that maybe sometimes if he kind of does that low arm action, it may get a few wickets in kind of pressure chases for the opposition. But even then, as a 6th bowler, they'd probably want to get a bit more out of him. It would be quite a hard thing. He isn't really an out-and-out 6th bowler, but they're going to have to make do. They've got Jimmy Neesham in the squad as well, who I'm going to get to. And this is what I was referring to at the start of the video when I was talking about their strengths are really strong. The one thing Rajasthan would not have been happy about is that you've got the opposition, honestly, with the way that Rajasthan ensured that this chase was not going to be a chase from the second over of this innings. And you can say even from the first over with how good the first over was as well. I think only over 2 runs. You've got this case where even then the death overs phase, which yes, the stakes was in terms of there was probably no chance SRH were going to get close to the total, but there was a bit of a free for all, and even at the death bowling phase, they conceded quite a lot of runs of weakness that, unsurprisingly, looking at even their squad, we thought that there would be. They paid Nathan Coulter now, but even then he's an out-and-out death bowler. He gave 48 runs in 3 overs in this game. And I think that, yes, he got injured. I hope he gets well. But even then, it's kind of, as much, like, he shouldn't be injured or anything, but I'm saying that playing him in the 11, they wanted to probably get a bit more of death bowling and certainly probably batting depth. I understand the batting depth, but he isn't really a death bowler either. He's probably gonna go for runs as well. And I think in this game, Prasidh Krishna really hitting. I think all the bowlers that just hit the seam and hit a length, they got the most reward. Navdeep Saini can't do that. So what they could do, considering whoever you bowl, it's not gonna work at the death. What you could do is just focus on really getting the start and middle overs right, so it alleviates the issues of the death. Trent Bolt isn't, again, if you're relying on Trent Bolt, it actually isn't too bad. We've seen that even as much as off late you may think he hasn't been that great at the death. I still wouldn't mind him being one of my death bowlers. But with the other two, Prasidh Krishna, Coulter now, or Navdeep Saini, if he plays, you're not really getting that assurance. What they could do is just do kind of like a full send. So only just focusing fully on their strengths and just saying, right, if you're getting Trent Bolt, Prasidh Krishna, Navdeep Saini, or if there will be assistance in this part of of India and the world, we're considering, despite the fact that these are mostly batting friendly pitches, there is something for the fast bowlers up top. There is movement to be extracted, and especially someone like a Trent Bolt can do that. So if you get Trent Bolt, Prasidh Krishna, Navdeep Saini to really hit that good length, Trent Bolt to more swing the ball, Prasidh Krishna, Navdeep Saini to hit that good length, hit the seam, then that will be tough for any batsman to play. You really minimize the damage up top. You've got 2 world-class spinners in Ashwin and Chahal as well. And then what you've got is just completely making sure that the opposition don't establish kind of a spine in their innings. Exactly what the Kolkata Knight Riders would have been wanting to do. What Mohammad Shami did for Gujarat Titans against the Lucknow Super Giants. Really owning that first phase of the innings, the first and the middle overs. It's a high-risk option, but I think that it is worth going for because they are going to concede runs at the death, especially with... I know it's only been one game, but Coulter now isn't really an out-and-out death bowler either. So they are going to go for runs. They don't really have anyone else who's going to be economical with the death. And most economical death bowler will be Trent Bolt. So I think that this is probably a high risk, but will surely, I think, has a chance to be high reward, considering their performance that they gave today. If their bowlers do this quite often, it will be quite hard to do, but if they manage to do this more often than not, with the batting that Rajasthan Royals have, which I'm also going to get to in terms of, yes, Padikkal batted at 4 today. If you don't play Nathan Coulter now and you play Navdeep Saini, what you could do is you probably need a bit more run to play with. Padikkal played really well today, but if you're wanting someone who's going to go from the outset, Rasif van der Dussen, playing him at number 4, you could go that way. Or if you wanted to really improve what you get from the 6th bowler, and maybe also based on the consistency of Riyan Parag, you may think someone who can also give you more contributions in that finishing role. I am a fan of Riyan Parag, but I'm saying that just the options that they have here is that James Neesham playing at number 6 as well would improve that 6th bowling option, also be that finisher at number 6. And so you could either play Jimmy Neesham, or you could play Rasif van der Dussen. But either way, this side are gonna have to really go with their. I'd say they don't really have too much batting depth as such, so their batsmen are really gonna have to play really well, and their bowlers are probably going to have to own the top and middle phase of the innings in order to be mostly successful. The team to be mostly successful. But based on what they did today with their strengths, I think that they are really strong. And yeah, I'm happy for them to be winning this game. I think that I was looking forward to see how they would play. And yes, and RR, they should be quite happy with what they did on the whole in this game. And for the Sunrisers, look, as much as how their batting performance seemed, anyone would have struggled against that bowling. As I said, I think that with their template of getting these big totals, someone from the top 4 is going to have to really bat through and then unleash. I don't think you can really rely on number 6 to give you those finishes because, I just think the lack of experience there, really. Even if you look at someone like a Romario Shepherd, he hasn't really been around for too long at this level. And certainly relying on his batting at this stage, however many sixes he hits, it isn't really the smartest thing to do at this stage in his career. And I think that with Romario Shepherd, he did well today, but again, the last 2 overs went for runs. And look, he is work in progress. I think that we also have to consider that as well. And him being part of the 5-bowler attack is also a bit of a risk. But I'm saying if he does well more often than not, which is going to be quite hard, but if he does well more often than not, for example, the 2 overs that he bowled today, the first half were really good. If he does that more often than not and you get a bonus from his hitting at number 7, then he'll be a much better signing than I first anticipated. And I think with the batting, I don't think you can blame them too much for this game. Anyone would have struggled with that kind of bowling. And yeah, I think that they shouldn't really get too bogged down by this. But as I said, I just think the discipline in terms of the no balls, that would have completely changed this game. They would have been chasing a lot less. And that's why I don't think you can really say any negatives from SRH apart from that. I think we just didn't really see... I guess you see the team's strengths with things going well for them, but they weren't... With the ball, they didn't allow things to go well for themselves. And with the bat, they weren't allowed for things to go well for them. So I think that, for today, it's pretty much all about Rajasthan Royals. A great game from them. Still the death bowling worries out there, but with what I said, maybe they would consider that. A high-risk option, but could be high reward. And for SRH, they don't really have to worry too much about this game, I still feel they've got quite an adaptable squad. And with the positives of the bowling did so despite conceding 200, I think they can still build on this. And with the batting, it's almost like this game didn't happen for them. I think that it was just the bowling was that good. The chasing 210, you're bound to get out in ways like Nicholas Puran did when you're not really getting any runs. It's 0 of 8 balls until that point. So that's on them. I think, that was this game. The next game should be a cracker. Royal Challengers Bangalore versus the Kolkata Knight Riders. Let's see who wins in that. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Please share this video with your friends. And remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?